These Reddit stories are guaranteed to make you feel good about your own life. Hello and welcome to r/Ella. My name is Ella, and today I am going to be reading some insane roommate Reddit stories. I can't even explain them. Let's just get into it. Okay, this first one is coming from BestofRedditorUpdates, and it is titled, "My 22 female roommate, 21 female, is trying to sublease her room to someone I have a restraining order against. Please help." When I was a freshman in college, a guy named Pete, 21 male, name changed, began harassing me to date him. I refused over and over again, and it ended with him ripping my shirt off at a party to try to touch my breasts. I filed a police report, and Pete was found guilty of rough handling. Fast forward to this week, and my roommate Shelley needs a subletter to take over for her while she studies abroad for the summer. She didn't know she was leaving until 2 weeks ago, and has been looking for someone to take over since then. She found Pete on CL and asked me if I approved. I showed her my court documents, but Shelley claims she can't find anyone else to take over and that I will have to deal with it. We got into a heated argument and she just left the apartment. So you're telling me her roommate asked, "Do you approve?" I have a restraining order against him, and replied, "Right, but I really need a subletter." Like, are you kidding? This morning, Shelley texted me that Pete would be moving his stuff into the apartment today. I called the police, but Pete hasn't showed up yet, so they can't do anything. Shelley also says she will be staying for the remainder of the week. The lease says that she can move whoever she wants in without my permission. Same goes for me. But there's still the issue of the restraining order. The landlord told me that it was between Shelley and me to figure out. We both have 1-year leases that expire in December with the same terms. Okay, so that's the end of the original post. Let's have a look for some comments. Top comment says, "Is Pete aware that you're the person he'll be sharing the apartment with? You might want to let him know that you'll be calling the police if he sets foot in the place." I was thinking that as well. I feel like, although it feels too coincidental for him to not know, there's also no sign that he does know. Like, I feel like it would be too convenient for this guy she has a restraining order against to just coincidentally stumble across his roommate and then move in without even knowing that it's going to be her. That doesn't feel right to me. Like, I feel like it probably is done on purpose, but we don't know that for sure. The guy could literally have no clue. OP replies, "Pete is aware that I'm the roommate because Shelley posted the ad with a photo of us both, without my permission. I already promised I would be calling the police, but Shelley is locked in her room and refuses to listen to me. I'm chilling by the door with 911 already pre-dialed." Next comment down says, "I agree with the consensus of calling the police the moment he arrives. Has he actually signed anything, like a subtle agreement? If so, he'll probably be on the hook to pay for the apartment he legally cannot step in. Also, not a lawyer, but I can't imagine that attempting to enter a living arrangement with a person holding a restraining order doesn't negate the restraining order. The first question I would ask Pete if I were a cop or a judge is, why did you think you could live there without violating the order?" I mean, exactly. OP replies, "Shelley claims that Pete has already paid for her all 3 months in advance and that he signed a contract with her. I told her that her contract does not override my restraining order, but she basically put her hands over her ears to drown out what I was saying. I plan on calling the cops the moment I see his car pull up, which is less than 1,000 feet. Shelley will still be here for the rest of the week, so I'm afraid this will escalate." Okay, are you guys ready? Update. 5 days later. "Hi everyone, thanks for reading this update. I have added some extra details at the beginning to better explain what happened. Things took some M. Night Shyamalan twists." I've never seen that or read that. I don't know what that is. But okay, she says things took some M. Night Shyamalan twists. Details. Shelley and I were not close friends. We were simply roommates, with our own separate bedrooms and connecting kitchen living space. I have only known her since last December when we originally signed our leases. We have hung out, but the only real connection we have had is that she likes anime / Japan and I'm Asian. Okay. The Craigslist ad, oh, that's what CL is, Craigslist, okay. The Craigslist ad that Shelley posted didn't have a photo. It turns out that she had used a generic photo of the two of us in an ad on our college's Facebook page, but Shelley took it down before I could take a screenshot. Now to the actual update. After I made my Reddit post, Shelley was locked in her room for 3 hours. I tried to talk to her, but she wouldn't come out of the room. She left her room to get food and just walked past me as if I didn't exist. Oh no, like totally, she's the real victim here. I can't believe OP wouldn't let her sublet the apartment to the guy she has a restraining order against. Oh, I feel sorry for her. Poor Shelley. It's truly iconic to develop a victim complex mid-restraining order violation. But I digress. Everyone who I called told me that until Pete actually showed up, no crime was being committed, so I couldn't report it until then. I just sat by the door and window watching for Pete's car. Everyone who I called told me that until Pete actually showed up, no crime was being committed, so I couldn't report it until then. I just sat by the door and window watching for Pete's car. This continued until early Saturday morning when Shelley woke up for her morning jog. I was still on the lookout for Pete's car. I stayed up all night on the couch. Shelley tried to sneak out past me, but I woke up and blocked the door. I needed an explanation for why I was being forced to stay up all night waiting to call the police on Pete, when she knew that I had a restraining order against him. Shelley's explanation was that the restraining order doesn't matter to her, that she has dealt with unreasonable people like me before, and that she has never listened to restraining orders before now. So why would she do it just for me? It's kind of a bold move for her to admit that she has multiple restraining orders. Beautiful resume, Shelley. The more I listened, the sicker I felt. Shelley basically admitted to me that she is a cunt. I'm not saying that word. I told Shelley that she was a real piece of work and that I was going to maintain my watch for Pete and that I would contemplate taking legal action. She told me that whether I liked it or not, she was done looking for subletters and that it was my problem. I told her to get out for a jog, and she left and came back a bit later and locked herself in her bedroom again. Sometime around noon, I had accidentally fallen asleep because I had been awake for 36 plus hours at this point. I woke up and saw Pete helping Shelley move his stuff into the car. I didn't see him in the apartment, but he was helping her in the parking lot. I immediately locked them both out and called the police. Shelley and Pete came to the door again, and when Pete saw it was locked, and when he saw me watching from the window, he blew up at Shelley. He started to ask her why I was in the apartment and why Shelley didn't tell him that I was the roommate. He demanded his money back, and I could hear them screaming at each other through the door. Oh, so he didn't know. The cops showed up, handcuffed Pete and Shelley. I told them my story, and Pete said he had emails and text messages to back himself up. The cops checked his phone, saw text messages from Shelley saying along the lines that her roommate wouldn't care about X, Y, and Z because he was such a chill guy. Pete had posted his own ad looking for a male roommate. That's right, Shelley's a liar too. The cops released Pete because he had proof that he didn't know it was me. I'm okay with this because I saw those emails and texts too. Shelley was charged with disorderly conduct and her mum come and got her. Sunday evening, Shelley and her mum come back to the apartment to finish packing for her study abroad. Shelley made some snide remarks about me definitely going roommate hunting to find her a subletter, as I said I would. I ignored her. Shelley left for her plane this morning. You know the good thing about separate leases? I am only liable for my rent, not hers. So I'm going to sit on my butt for the rest of the summer while she gets evicted for lack of rent payment. So wait a minute. He didn't even know? I have so many questions and every single one of them starts with why? I find it so hard to believe that Shelley went through and did all of this just because she couldn't be bothered to find another subletter. Surely this is more hard work and more drama than just looking for someone else. I guess with roommates there is so much room for underlying conflict. Like, hey, don't use my milk. Don't go in my room. When are you going to take the bins out? that kind of thing. So maybe Shelley, with her lack of emotional imagination and perspective, she just saw this as part of that everyday roommate drama, and she's like, you can't tell me what to do. You can't tell me who to sublet to. That's mine. That's my choice to make. But she has to be so self-centered for that to genuinely be unintentional and just like, well, I don't care. I don't care what you say. This isn't yours to put input into. But the thing that just continues to stand out to me is that it's just so coincidental. How come the only one singular person that Shelley can find to sublet the apartment is the one and only person that OP has a restraining order against? Is that strange to anyone else? Like, what if it wasn't carelessness, but actually done very carefully? Like a message to be sent of like, hey, don't forget I'm the one in control here, and I could do things and make decisions that just actually make your life miserable. Like, which is worse? Her being so careless that she puts OP in a position where she is staying awake for 30 plus hours a night, looking through the window and waiting for somebody to arrive so that she can call the police and feel safe, or that being her goal all along. Anyway, let's move on. Okay, this next one is coming from the OKstorytime subreddit, and it is titled, I had a secret roommate who I didn't know about. Let's dive into it. Hi, OKstorytime people. This happened back in 2021, but I was telling the story to some friends at a party this weekend, and horrified, they drove me to post it on Reddit. So here I am. A little backstory. In 2021, my cats, two male... I didn't know you had to... Okay. My cats, two male, and I, 25 female at the time, escaped a toxic relationship and lost our housing. My mother found a basement apartment listed on Facebook Marketplace and sent it to me. £1,000, great for my area, for the studio-style basement of a large home, utilities and internet included, small galley-style kitchen and a bathroom that was actually functional about 40% of the time. I was fairly restricted with what I could do with this place, no painting or putting holes in the walls for decor, but I didn't mind. I didn't have much anyway. The studio had no heat or AC, but they provided me with a window, AC, unit and a fireplace-esque space heater for the space. The family who owned the home had 4 generations of people living above me, but I didn't mind the noise. When they gave me the tour, they mentioned that the small area of the studio that was sectioned off by false walls was their kitchen storage, pots and pans, bags of rice and whatnot, that they access maybe once a week for meal prep, and would be sure to call me before they used their separate staircase to go in there. Seemed like a good enough deal in a really great area, so I jumped on it. For a couple of months, everything was fine, until it wasn't. They asked me to park several streets away and walk alone in the night so the town didn't suspect they had an illegal immigrant. No. They asked me to park several streets away and walk alone in the night so that the town didn't suspect that they had an illegal apartment. Whatever, I do it. Then they say no guests whatsoever, not even female friends. Whatever, this place is embarrassing anyway. Then they started vacuuming directly above my bed for hours and hours right after I got home from my 12-hour shift. Then sewage backed up in the bathroom and they told me I was responsible for the repair and cleaning. Then they got chickens and let them free roam right in front of my door, so I got chased every time I came home. Then one member of the home bought a Tesla and entered my apartment with no notice to run wires for the Tesla charger. I came home that day to all the ceiling tiles on the floor and one of my cats outside, and it continued like this. Basically every week there was a new, extremely annoying, but not totally damning thing that they did. Whether it was their young son peeping through my bathroom window or the... What, we're just going to skate past that? We're just going to skate... What? How young? Okay, we'll move past it. Or the power going out. There was always some BS. But I dealt with it for the sake of having housing. At the end of the day, there was a roof over my head and I was grateful for that. Then the winter hit. They call me. They want £1,200 a month now because their electricity bill went crazy because of my space heater. Definitely not the brand new Tesla. They told me they would be willing to compromise to $1,100 if I turned the space heater off while I left for work and let my cats stay in a freezing basement. I refused and began looking for other housing options. One day I worked a double, a 24-hour shift because we were snowed in at my job. I stumbled home, exhausted, smelly, and all I wanted was a shower and sleep. The hot water didn't work, so I said F it and tried to sleep. Cue the vacuum for 4 hours. I was in tears at this point. Then the fire alarm goes off. Their entire family busts into my apartment, accusing me of smoking inside and causing the alarm. I'm crying and telling them to leave. The fire alarm turns off. 5 minutes later, a reenactment. It goes off. They bust in. I don't know what's going on and insist I'm not smoking in the apartment. Someone asks if the space heater is on. I tell them, no. The space heater was on fire. It was a small electrical fire inside the heater that wasn't visible because of the fake flames. Look, it has. They take the space heater outside, put the fire out with the snow, and then I hear them joking amongst themselves. I told you not to take that out of the trash. It was probably there for a reason. And laughing. They gave me a broken and dangerous heater that they found in somebody else's trash to heat up my apartment. That was it. I started packing my cats and my stuff to go to sharing a room at my parents' house at 25. Anything was better than this show. The family began harassing me, saying I wouldn't get my security deposit back because I smoked inside. I don't smoke. I don't even care. I want to wash my hands of this. About a week after everything went down, I showed up with some friends to move out of this depression dungeon. We are almost done when one of my friends opens the dry storage closet, thinking I kept clothes in there. And what did he see? But another woman staring back at him. They had another person living in the dry storage room the entire time. She had a little twin-sized bed, a radio, a lamp, some clothes, a microwave, everything. I work such long days, usually gone for 14 hours on the days I work, that I somehow never heard her or knew she was there the entire 7 months I lived there. This woman had been there the whole time, listening to me have full-on mental breakdowns, online therapy appointments, everything. To this day, I'm not sure if she was going upstairs for her utilities or if she just waited until I left for work to enter my apartment and shower and use the toilet. And honestly, I don't even want to know. This family was fairly well connected and threatened to get me and my mother both fired from our jobs and lose our livelihood if we reported them for the illegal apartment. I have a few questions. My main question is, who is this woman? Why is she agreeing to this? And can you imagine the situation she's in? That she's probably having to be like dead quiet when OP was in her apartment, and OP's apartment already sounds like, she said, a depression dungeon. And this woman's living in the dry closet. She's living in a little cupboard. What situation does this woman have to be in that she either agrees to this, or even worse, I'm worried, what if she's not agreeing to this? She has to be, right? Or she would have asked for help. Also, obviously they were trying to drive OP to leaving. I think that they get, like they said, they're not giving her a deposit back. I think they get people to give deposits, live here for a short amount of time, drive them to leave, and then keep the deposit. Right? I feel like this is some kind of scam. I'm in a much better situation now, happily in a relationship and with safe, affordable housing that won't nearly kill me. But goddamn. And that is the end of that story. That was absolutely insane. But not the end of this episode. We have one more story to go. Are you ready? Would I be the asshole if I took a job as my ex-roommate's boss? Let's find out. Oh, and this is coming from WIBTA, which I haven't heard of that subreddit much, but it's would I be the asshole if, not am I the asshole. Okay, you ready? My partner, 32 male, and I, 32 female, were roommates with the same two people, married couple, 27 female, 30 male, up until July of last year. We had lived together for almost a decade. We all moved out of our parents' houses together, were in each other's weddings, and moved across the country together. Then we convinced a dozen of our friends to move with us. We had also frequently talked about buying a house together. Out of nowhere, last year they told us they would be moving out when the lease was up and moving in with different friends of ours. We could not afford a place on our own, and almost all our friends were locked into leases with no extra rooms. After they told us the news, the next 4 months before the lease was up were awful. Not only did they start actively avoiding and ignoring us, they literally started locking their cat in the room like we were going to do something to him. They started talking about us behind our backs and got half of our friend group to stop talking to us. We also found out almost everyone in the friend group knew they would be moving out like this, months before they told us. When I confronted each of them, neither could give me a reason and basically said, "Nuh-uh, you avoided us, you gossiped about us." And then had our former friends message us to tell us what pieces of we were and how great our friends are. And then had our former friends message us to tell us what pieces of shit we are and how great our other friends are. After months of depression, I was able to move on and accept they clearly had been building up resentment for a while, if they had ever liked us at all. Our new roommates now are great. Group events are more fun, and I don't cry every time I finish talking to someone who was supposed to be one of my closest friends. We moved out in July, and I officially blocked all of them in October, I believe. Now I have recently decided that I want to change jobs. I hate my bosses, and I'm tired of remote work. I have started applying to similar jobs near me in hopes of finding somewhere new. I just got a second interview at a place I think would be pretty great. But it recently hit me that there is a good chance it's where my former roommate / best friend works. I don't have a way to find this out, but I have mostly decided I don't care. I've moved on and I don't want to give up a job opportunity just because I might end up becoming my ex-best friend's manager. But would I be the asshole if I did? This is so strange. Now, I get it. Times are tough. Being able to pay rent. I mean, dual income. I don't know. But okay, let's say times are tough. I'm giving you that benefit of the doubt, and dual income might not be enough. You need a quadruple income to pay for housing. Okay. This is still strange. You are not talking about these people like they're roommates. You're talking like you guys were in a foursome couple. I don't know how to say that. I know what a throuple is. What is it when it's a throuple? A throuple. Never mind. You guys sound like you are like in love with this couple. Oh my god, am I being such a dick? I can't tell if I'm being mean. I really can't tell, but something about this feels so weird. The fact that you guys have lived together for a decade and then they're moving out and you're like, how could you do this? And I get it. It's not really about the fact that they're moving out, but also the fact that they decided to be really weird with you and not act like you guys have been friends for a decade before they leave. But the fact that they've done that to move in with other friends and not move in on their own tells me that something weird has gone on before the fact that they've like said to other people that they're going to do this and then they've gone and they've left and they've only felt it appropriate to tell you just before they leave tells me they were a bit worried about telling you. I could be reading this completely wrong. This could go one or two ways for me. Either the people that you were living with are just pure a-holes and randomly after a decade decided that you were not serving them anymore in some kind of way, and they've just decided to show you their real personality after a decade and leave you to go and be with other friends. I don't know. It could be that, or it could be that you did something. You made them feel uncomfortable in some way to the point where they've made an exit plan, they've left, and now you're following them to work. Now you're following them and going to be their boss. Iconic revenge. But also psychotic. Anyway, let's see what these comments say. Okay, so from Deleted. Deleted says, I'm so confused by the story. Why are you, a couple in their 30s, still with roommates? Why were you upset when a married couple wanted to leave you? Why did you think a 4-month notice was out of the blue? And why would you want to all buy a house together? This is super weird. Yes! That is super weird. Because, okay, let's say that they are in a financial situation where they cannot afford to live on their own as a married couple. Why would you make a permanent decision to buy a house together, the four of you? Because I feel like if you don't have enough money to live on your own, then that is a temporary solution to live together, right? But buying a house is a very permanent solution. And I'm not judging you for having roommates. I mean, I've seen New Girl, okay? I like that idea. And I'm also not judging you if you are all for a couple, but to pretend like you're two separate couples and then act like a full... Okay, anyway. This is super weird. What reason did they give you for wanting to move in with another friend? Was this all getting a bit too much for them? Because it would for me. I feel like you're leaving information out. I'm sorry, but I also don't think it's a coincidence that you happen to have applied for a company the friend possibly works at. You live together for over a decade. You absolutely know where they work. You are the asshole. And sound very full on. Don't come to Reddit if you don't want to be read. If you don't want to be read to filth, don't go to Reddit. OP replied, when I say out of nowhere, I mean we had just been talking about buying a house together. At no point did they indicate that they wanted the living situation to change until they had already made their own arrangements. That hurt our feelings a bit because we thought we were closer, so would have gotten more of a heads up. They needed a change, but we understood. They can live with whoever they want, whenever they want. It was the fact that there was clearly some animosity on their end that they never shared, and the fact they split our friend group up like an ugly divorce that made this so awful. I found out all the gossip they'd been spreading, that my husband was verbally abusive, he's the furthest thing from it, and that I should just leave him and become a lesbian. We're missing details. We're missing some details. What do you mean? He is very verbally abusive. You should be a lesbian. Those, I fear you may have done something to trigger the lesbian comment. Not that that's a problem. And not that anybody should be telling you what your sexuality is. But I just fear we're missing some context. That they accused other friends who would still talk to us of cheating on their partners or being annoying or creepy to everyone else. Have you ever lived with a person you thought was your best friend for 10 years, only for them to bail and tell everyone you're an awful person for things you never even knew they thought? It was upsetting for a bit. I agree. Like, if it really happened like that, where they're just telling plain lies, like you gotta be like, what is going on? But I just feel like something's missing. Because it's the fact that they were roommates for 10 years that makes me feel like something's missing. If they were roommates for like 6 months and something like this happened, I would be like, that person is mental. But 10 years, something's happened. Yet here I worry about being rude to her by taking a job at her possible place of work. She had started a new job only a month before they stopped speaking to us. As for the roommate situation, you must not live in the US. Home and rent prices are unbelievable, so roommates allow us to afford a comfortable living. It's super common here and not even remotely weird. Okay, if there's any Americans watching this, is it remotely weird? Is it remotely weird? It feels remotely weird. Again, not judging, just feels weird. I mean, I'd love to be a married couple living with another married couple. In theory, that sounds like built-in besties, great. But in reality, having to live with someone you married is already hard. like every day forever? Add another couple into that? That's really weird. What if I accidentally left my extremely comfy clothes in the bathroom and I wake up in the morning and I don't want to wear uncomfortable clothes because I only have one pair. I'm wearing my PJs right now because I have sensory issues, okay? What if I need to go downstairs and get my comfy clothes naked and there's another couple there? How do you live like that? Anyway, that's all I've got for you today. It was lovely to see you, and I hope to see you again next Friday.